So this is the introduction to one of the hypnosis audios, the one called Rewind. Do not listen to that hypnosis audio until you've listened to this, because this is an unusual type of hypnosis recording in that you need to understand a process that you're going to undertake in order to be able to understand what's going on and to get the change from it that you desire. So this is about eliminating fear, or at worst, reducing fear. So to begin with, I want you to bring to mind the fear that you think is holding you back, the emotion, if you like, or the memory of an experience is best. So this one, it's best to have the memory of an experience where you felt afraid, or you felt crushed, you felt something deeply uncomfortable. Fear is best. The more intense the feeling, the negative feeling you have about a specific event or events or set of circumstances, the better this hypnosis audio will be to help you change it. So if you can bring something readily to mind, that's great. If you can't, stop this and go away and think about it. And if there isn't anything that feels that intense, then, well, you can do this, but you may not need it. It may be that all the work we've done up to this point has actually diminished the fear to the extent that it is no longer a problem. However, let's stick and assume that there is a problem. So when you think of this particular situation, event, circumstance, maybe there's more than one. Maybe there's a series of different events that make you feel really uncomfortable, and it doesn't matter how long ago they were. It could be last week, it could be this morning, it could be 10 years ago, it could be 50 years ago. As long as you still feel, when you think about it, the same level of anxiety and discomfort in relation to that memory, then that's what we're using. And when you think about it, I often describe this as a little bit like a film that runs in your head, and it's on repeat. So if you ever think of that moment, you go through it in exactly the same way you've always gone through it before. There are the same moments of high drama, and it always begins and ends in the same place, and it repeats, it goes on a loop. So imagine this is a film, because it is a film. It's a film that exists in your head, and it may or may not have sound, but it probably does have some visual imagery attached. This is your film. Not the film you want to keep, this is the film we're using for the purpose of this hypnosis recording called Rewind. If there are multiple memories, just join them all together. Imagine you're the director, because you are. You are both the director and the star. Unwilling or not, you're the star and the director of the film. You're also the film editor. You're all of those things. So if you're the director, then you can include any scenes, you can link things together that don't seem to make sense, any memory that feels uncomfortable, just put it together and imagine it all feels part of the same film. You can jump from one to another. And this is your film. This is how you experience it. This is what we're working on. So when you've got something to mind, or multiple things, you could do one at a time, or you could put them all together. And what you're going to do in this exercise, it's called Rewind, is you're going to imagine, and I'll be talking you through, that it's on some kind of device you can play, a CD or an MP4, something you can put onto a device and sit and watch. So it is like a film. And here are the things that are most important that you understand. So please pay close attention to what I'm about to say. Number one, imagine a time or a place or a feeling that feels lovely. If you could feel like this instead of the feeling that you get when you imagine this event or circumstance. Capture something from your memory from your experience that feels safe, that feels calm, that where you feel like nothing could get you here. You feel okay. Again, draw on a memory. So it could be something that happened this morning, but more likely it will be a consistent memory or a place somewhere you always feel incredible. Maybe by water, by a lake, by the sea. It doesn't matter where, it's your personal refuge. It's a place or a memory or a feeling where you feel completely safe. That becomes what I describe as a bookend. That's the beginning and the end of your film. Everything in the middle is all the nasty stuff, all the unpleasantness, but you add, this is the only change you make when we go through the hypnosis path, you're going to add a beginning and an end to your film. And that beginning and end can be exactly the same. You can use that safe point, that memory, that feeling at the beginning and at the end. No matter what happens in the middle, you always start and you always end with this safe place, same feeling. Okay? Very important. Because if you don't do this, then none of this has any impact at all. It's really, really, really important. You have your safe point and it's always beginning and end. No matter how bad everything in the middle feels, you will always come back to this safe place. Okay, and that's on your film. So you've edited it, you've added these points in. And this is to help you understand this in context. This is like horror movie format. If you ever watch a horror movie, they always follow a formula. And the formula is this. They always start in a place where the sun's shining, the birds are singing, everything's calm and relaxed, people are happy and laughing. And then all the horror starts. But before the film credits come up, no matter what's happened throughout the film, at the last scene will be peace and calm and tranquility once again. And it's because your brain needs this. People wouldn't keep coming back into the cinema to see more because they would be left feeling traumatized. The brain needs a close that says, oh, it's okay. We're okay. Oh, yeah, check the room. It's fine. We're safe. So we are using, or rather films are borrowing from the way the mind works, and we're borrowing the way films work. This is the way your brain likes to process information, and we're beginning to change the way it feels about something that you've been carrying for a long time and feeling afraid and feeling anxious about. So, horror movie format, beginning, safe point, end, safe point. That's the change you must make. So when we get into it, I will start, and I will, at some point during the hypnosis, I will ask you to imagine you're watching this film. And I will remind you about the safe point at the beginning, the safe point at the end. And then I will ask you to watch it, and I will remind you that you will have a remote control, that you can control the speed and the direction of this film. You can fast forward and you can fast rewind. And I will be asking you to imagine that you use these. So just think about that now. That's difficult to imagine. Changing the speed moving forward is one thing, but changing the speed moving backwards is another thing. Imagine what that's like when you see it on film. It's jarring and unnatural to see things moving backwards, to hear sound going backwards. It changes completely. Why do we do this? Because we're trying to change the way your brain interprets this memory. We're releasing the fear on a number of levels. So this is one of the first ones. So as I said, when you run this film normally, you always start at the same point, you always end at the same point in your head, and you run it at the same speed. Nothing changes. So the first way we start to break this is we change the speed. Actually, that's the second way. The first way we change it is by adding a safe point at the beginning and the safe point at the end, because that reassures your mind, it's okay, we're going to be okay. That's the first way. The second way, we fast forward, we fast rewind, we change the way the brain understands this particular memory. It's like, oh, well, it doesn't normally work like that. And if you think again of the horror movie, you understand how powerful this one change is. Because if you speed up a horror movie or you rewind it, it ceases to have the same impact. It ceases to affect you in the same emotional way because your brain says that's not real. That's not frightening anymore. That's not real. And so that's the second way we're breaking the connection in your brain, your primitive brain, with this association, with this memory and feeling anxious, afraid, stuck. Now, here's the third point. I'm going to ask you to watch it forwards and backwards 15 times. So the way this recording will work is you'll get to one point. I'm going to break it into you. When I start to ask you to listen or to watch the film and use your fast forward and your fast rewind, you're going to have to stop the recording and do that on your own. It's the only way we can do this using technology. And then you come back in because I'm going to ask you to do this 15 times, forwards and backwards, forwards and backwards, forwards and backwards, forwards and backwards, 15 times. You may lose count, don't worry. Do your best to do this 15 times forwards and backwards. Now, here's the third thing that happens that loosens the grip your primitive mind has on this and holding you back, keeping you stuck. It gets bored. Breaking news, it gets bored. Your brain starts to tire, and it's hard work. This is really hard work. Should have said this at the outset. This is the one hypnosis recording or anything. If you've ever had hypnosis, this is the one that will make you tired, may give you a headache for a short while, will use and consume vast amounts of energy because of the parts of your brain which are being challenged to work hard over and over. And so it gets tired. And when it gets tired, it also gets bored. You can't be bored and frightened. And what it starts to do is it loses detail. It will jump. So what's crystal clear at the beginning begins to become, oh, I don't know, but there was this bit and then there was this bit. And you'll start to miss things out, or you just can't be bothered. This is good news. If your brain is bored, it cannot be frightened, it cannot be stuck or overwhelmed. When this happens, you need to have in reserve, which is why you need to think about this now before you start the recording. You have to invent, because remember, you're the director and the film editor, invent some kind of bizarre, humorous, just bonkers scene or happening that you're going to insert into this film to change it. At this point, you can change it any way you please. Now, because I'm not working with you directly, I don't know what you're dealing with, but think of something crazy, like, I don't know, suddenly everybody puffs up like balloons and floats off into the sky and then dissolve. Or suddenly Mickey Mouse is on ice skates in the middle of everything and Goofy is laughing. Something that's nonsensical, that just doesn't make sense, that you would never be afraid of, because it just, why would you be afraid of Goofy or balloons? So think of something before you start that you could change. You know, everybody starts to grow bananas out of their ears. Do you see? You get the point. It has to be a little bit crazy. Right. You now have everything you need. So first of all, you're going to think of the memory, if you haven't already done that. You can do this exercise, this hypnosis recording, more than once. And the more you do it, the more you will relinquish, you will diminish the fear. You can put lots of different memories into one film that you go through, or you can do them separately at different times. But whatever you do, you are going to have your safe point at the beginning, your safe point at the end. And when your mind starts to tire, starts to skip, then you want to insert something ridiculous. Now I just want to add a final rider on this. Sometimes a fear or a memory or an event is not a lengthy thing. It can be something very quick. You think, oh, if I fast forward and rewind, it's already really quick. You can choose the opposite to slow things down. It will have the same impact because the brain still, if you see some, it just doesn't have impact, does it? Slow it down. So you decide if you're concerned, oh no, but if I speed it up, there's nothing to speed up. Use the slow motion and do the same. Backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. Right. You have everything you need. What you're going to have now are 2 parts of this hypnosis audio. Ordinarily, of course, if you were with me, you wouldn't have to jump out of the memory and then back into the end piece. But because you and I have no idea how long this watching the film and rewinding and fast forwarding will take, because we're all different and memories are different, there is no other way to do this. So I'm going to leave you at the point where you watch the film. And I will remind you, fast forward and rewind 15 times. And then as you have finished that, you're then going to want to press play on the next hypnosis recording. This is a bit crazy, never done this before. Let's see if it works. Final thing. Think of the scale of the fear. Scale of 0 to 10. 10 is jumping out your skin. It's horrendous. I can't bear to think about it. However anxious, afraid, stuck you are. 10 is as bad as it gets. 0 is, well, I don't seem to have any problem with that. Why would I have a problem? I want you to think of what that number is before you start. Write it down. Remember, we've been doing this every week, thinking about how you feel overall. This is specifically in relation to this feeling. Write that down before you start. And then at the end, when you come back, think about what the number is again. And it will change over time. You might find that it diminishes over time, that you discover you're less bothered than you thought you were. So don't expect it all to happen right away, although you will get a significant jump initially, but you will also get a longer lasting improvement. Okay, that's it. I know this is a very, very long explanation, but it really, really is important, and there's no other way around this. Okay, so I will look forward to seeing you on the other side, and enjoy. It's hard work. I can't say enjoy. This is the least enjoyable hypnosis you'll ever have, but it works. Okay.